My son, I have waited for hours to say this to you, and heaven would not let me stay silent any longer. There was a weight on my heart that could not be held back, not because I was unsure, not because I was delayed, but because timing matters. I watched you move through these hours without knowing what was being prepared for you. I watched your thoughts race, your heart grow restless, your spirit sense that something was close. This was not waiting in emptiness. This was waiting with purpose. And now the moment has arrived where silence would be unloving. That is why I am speaking to you now, directly, personally, with nothing hidden. What I am about to tell you is not a story, not a rumor, and not a joke. I am not exaggerating to get your attention. I am not speaking in drama or metaphor to stir your emotions. This is real, and it is close. You can feel that closeness even if you can't explain it. You have sensed it in the way your heart has felt uneasy, in the way your thoughts keep circling back to the same questions, in the way peace has felt just out of reach. That is because truth has been approaching, and truth carries weight. I do not speak lightly, my son. When I speak, it is because something matters enough to interrupt your life. I told them before, and they did not believe me. I spoke gently, patiently, clearly, and still they dismissed it. Not because the truth was weak, but because their hearts were not ready to receive it. This has always been the way. Truth is often doubted until evidence stands in plain sight. I know what it feels like to be unheard. I know what it feels like to speak and be ignored. And I know you understand that feeling too. You have lived moments where you knew something deep inside, but others did not listen. Where you saw what was coming, but no one believed you. I have seen you carry that quietly. I have seen how it shaped you. That is why I am speaking to you now, when you are ready to hear. Now the truth is standing in the open. What was once hidden is no longer hidden. What was once forming quietly is now clear enough to be recognized. You may not see every detail yet, but you can sense the shift. Something has moved from preparation into revelation. And that is why this feels different from all the other moments you have lived. This is not vague. This is not distant. This is near. Tomorrow is not just another day for you. Do not treat it as routine. Do not assume it will pass like all the others. Your spirit already feels the shift coming, even if your mind tries to stay logical and calm. You feel a quiet seriousness settling in. You feel an awareness that something is about to be clarified. Tomorrow is not about chaos or spectacle. It is about understanding. It is about seeing what you could not fully see before. It is about a line being crossed, not by force, but by truth. You are seeing this because the evidence is finally here, and it changes everything. Evidence does not always come in the form you expect. Sometimes it comes as clarity that will not leave you alone. Sometimes it comes as patterns suddenly making sense. Sometimes it comes as confirmation after confirmation lining up in ways you cannot ignore anymore. You have been collecting pieces without realizing it. Moments, feelings, realizations, interruptions. And now they are coming together. That is evidence. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Do not dismiss this moment. I say that with love, not threat. Do not brush it aside as emotion. Do not tell yourself this is just another message that will fade. If you dismiss this, it is not me you are turning away from. It is understanding. And understanding, once offered and ignored, leaves a deeper emptiness than ignorance ever did. What unfolds next will prove that my words were never empty. Not because I need to prove myself, but because truth always reveals itself in time. I know part of you wants to stay guarded. I know part of you wants to wait and see, to hold back commitment, to protect yourself from disappointment. You have learned that caution feels safer than hope. But hear me, my son. Guarding your heart too tightly can keep life out along with pain. This moment is asking for attention, not fear. Awareness, not panic. Honesty, not perfection. My child, listen carefully now. Not with half your attention. Not while planning what comes next. Listen with the part of you that already knows this matters. What I have waited to reveal is about to be made clear, not all at once, not loudly, but unmistakably. You will recognize it because it will resonate with what you have felt for a long time but could never fully name. I waited because rushing would have caused you to miss it. I waited because speaking too soon would have sounded like noise instead of truth. I waited because you needed to arrive at this moment with your own awareness awakened. Waiting was not delay. Waiting was preparation. And now preparation has done its work. You are not late to this. You are on time. Exactly on time. Everything you have lived, every season of confusion, every unanswered question, every moment of doubt has led you here. That does not mean the road was easy. It means it was purposeful. And purpose often becomes clear only at the moment it is fulfilled. Do not be afraid of what is coming to light. Light does not come to shame you. It comes to free you. It comes to remove confusion. It comes to replace guessing with knowing. I am not revealing something to overwhelm you. I am revealing something to steady you. Type Amen. I receive it, Lord, if you're ready for His blessing today. This is not coincidence. This is not random. This is not something you accidentally encountered. You are here because your heart is ready to receive what your mind could not have handled before. You are here because the waiting has shaped you, softened you, strengthened you in ways you did not notice at the time. My son, stay with me in this moment. Do not rush ahead. Do not pull back. Let what I am saying settle deeply. What comes next will not require fear, only faithfulness. Not perfection, only honesty. Not strength you do not have, but trust you can give. I have waited to say this because now you can hear it. And what I have waited to reveal will soon speak for itself. My child, I have been waiting to speak to you. Not because I forgot you. Not because I was distant. Not because you were unimportant. I have been waiting because love knows when to speak and when to hold silence, and heaven does not rush what must be received with care. I want you to understand this deeply. Waiting was not absence. Waiting was preparation. Every quiet moment, every unanswered question, every pause you thought meant I was gone was actually shaping you so you could hear me now. I know waiting has felt heavy for you. I know there were times when the silence hurt more than words ever could. You wondered why I did not speak sooner, why clarity did not come when you asked, why relief did not arrive when you were tired. You questioned whether I saw you, whether I remembered you, whether you mattered enough to be answered. My child, I saw everything. I remembered every tear. I counted every restless night. Silence was never neglect. It was care. There is a patience in heaven that is different from the patience of this world. The world waits because it must. Heaven waits because it chooses to. Love waits not to withhold, but to protect. I restrained my voice not because I had nothing to say, but because saying it too soon would have hurt you, confused you, or passed over you without taking root. Truth spoken before the heart is ready becomes noise. Truth spoken at the right time becomes life. I watched you grow through the waiting. I watched your heart soften in places where it once resisted. I watched your questions deepen. I watched your strength change shape. You thought nothing was happening because nothing was loud. But much was happening quietly. Preparation often feels like delay because it works beneath the surface. Seeds grow in darkness before they ever break through the ground. I know you felt overlooked at times. I know you compared your waiting to others who seemed to hear answers faster. You wondered why their path moved quickly while yours felt slow. My child, speed is not favor. Readiness is. I was not ignoring you. I was choosing you. I was shaping you for something that required depth, not haste. Waiting required restraint from me as well. Do you understand that? There were moments when I longed to speak, when I wanted to step in sooner, when I saw you struggling and wished you could hear me clearly right then. But love held back because it knew you needed time to grow into the hearing. Silence was not empty. Silence was full of intention. I want you to feel how personal this is. I did not wait for the crowd. I waited for you. This moment was not scheduled by chance. It was appointed. The timing fits your heart, your story, your journey. You are not one among many to me. You are known by name. Your life is not generic. Your waiting was not wasted. There were lessons that could only be learned in the quiet. Trust that is not built on immediate answers. Faith that does not depend on constant reassurance. Strength that comes from staying when nothing is obvious. These things cannot be rushed. They must be lived into. And you lived into them, even when you thought you were simply enduring. You may have thought the silence meant disapproval. It did not. You may have thought it meant distance. It did not. You may have thought you were forgotten. You were not. The silence meant I was guarding you from hearing what you could not yet carry. Some truths require a certain tenderness. Some words need a heart that has been stretched enough to receive them without breaking. I have been waiting to speak because now you can hear me without running, without dismissing, without turning away too quickly. Your heart has been trained by the waiting. It has learned to listen beyond noise. It has learned to sit with discomfort without escaping. That is preparation. That is readiness. That is why this moment exists. I know the waiting made you feel alone at times. I know it made you doubt yourself. I know it made you question whether you missed something or did something wrong. My child, you did not miss me. I was with you the whole time. I walked with you through every delay. I held you in every quiet season. I shaped you through every unanswered prayer. Waiting was not punishment. It was protection. If I had spoken earlier, you might have heard fear instead of love. You might have heard pressure instead of purpose. You might have reacted instead of responded. Now, you are able to receive what I am saying with understanding, not panic. With trust, not resistance. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness into your life and encourage your devotion to God. If you would like to support us, you can donate through Super Thanks. I want you to feel chosen in this moment because you are. Not chosen because you are better than others, but chosen because you are ready now. Chosen because your heart has been prepared. chosen because your story has led you here. I am speaking to you, not around you. I am addressing you personally, intentionally, lovingly. Heaven's patience is not passive. It is active restraint guided by wisdom. Every moment I waited was a moment I was working behind the scenes, lining timing, softening edges, removing distractions, bringing you to a place where you could stop long enough to hear me. I know you are tempted to look back and wish I had spoken sooner. I know you want to rewrite parts of your story. But hear me clearly, nothing was wasted. Even the waiting that hurt served a purpose. It carved space in you. Space for truth. Space for trust. Space for what I am about to say. This moment required silence until now, because now is when silence can give way to clarity without overwhelming you. Now is when words can land instead of bounce off. Now is when hearing can lead to life instead of confusion. That is why I waited. That is why I am speaking now. I want you to rest in this truth. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. You were never delayed by accident. You were being prepared for a moment that carries weight. A moment that requires attention. A moment that honors the journey you have been on. Let the waiting make sense to you now. Not all at once, but enough to trust that I knew what I was doing. Enough to believe that love was present even when words were not. Enough to receive what comes next without fear. My child, I have been waiting to speak to you because now you can hear me. And because now, what I say can change you. Stay here with me. Let the weight of waiting lift. Let understanding settle in your heart. This is not the end of the waiting. It is the reason for it. My child, I want you to understand why I could not speak until now. Not because I was unwilling, not because I was unsure, but because timing matters deeply in the spirit. Words are not only sounds, they carry weight, and weight must meet readiness. Truth spoken too early does not heal. It confuses. It overwhelms. It gets ignored, misunderstood, or wasted. I love you too much to waste truth on a heart that was not yet able to hold it. There were moments when you asked me to speak sooner. You prayed. You waited. You wondered why heaven felt quiet when your need felt loud. You thought silence meant absence. You thought delay meant denial. But silence was not emptiness, and delay was not refusal. It was protection. If I had spoken to you earlier, you might have heard fear instead of love. You might have reacted instead of listened. You might have resisted instead of received. Timing is not about my ability to speak. It is about your ability to hear. The Spirit does not hear the way the ears do. The Spirit hears through surrender, through stillness, through humility, through readiness shaped by experience. Earlier, your heart was full of noise. Not bad noise, but survival noise. Worry. Better. Distraction. You were trying to hold everything together, trying to make sense of your life, trying to stay afloat. In that state, truth would have sounded like burden instead of clarity. I watched you during those seasons. I saw how easily your mind raced ahead of your heart. I saw how quickly you searched for answers instead of allowing understanding to grow. If I had spoken clearly then, you might have rushed to conclusions, twisted meaning, or carried weight you were not meant to carry yet. Love does not place heavy truth on fragile ground. Truth spoken too early often becomes something people defend against. It feels like accusation instead of invitation. It feels like pressure instead of purpose. I did not want that for you. I did not want you to hear me and harden instead of soften. I wanted your heart open, not braced. So I waited, not idly but intentionally. And while I waited, I prepared you. I prepared you through pressure. Not to crush you, but to slow you down. Pressure revealed what you could no longer ignore. It showed you what was not working. It exposed the limits of your strength. You felt squeezed, stretched, unsettled. That was not punishment. That was preparation. Pressure made space where comfort once lived. I prepared you through confusion. Not confusion meant to disorient you forever, but confusion that stripped away false certainty. There were things you thought you understood that no longer made sense. Paths you trusted that stopped working. Answers that felt shallow. That confusion was painful, but it was necessary. It loosened your grip on control. It taught you to listen instead of assume. Truth cannot enter a heart that believes it already knows everything. I prepared you through delay. Delay trained you to sit with unanswered questions without running away. It taught you patience you did not know you had. It taught you endurance. It taught you how to wait without constant reassurance. These are not small lessons. They are foundations. Without them, truth collapses under the weight of expectation. You may have thought those seasons were wasted. They were not. They shaped your hearing. They softened your spirit. They removed shortcuts from your faith. And now when I speak, you are not looking for quick relief. You are listening for meaning. That is readiness. Earlier, you wanted answers to fix your situation. Now, you want truth to align your heart. A difference matters. Answers solve moments. Truth shapes lives. I was not withholding answers because I did not care. I was guiding you towards something deeper than answers. Here is also this, my child. Truth carries responsibility. When you hear clearly, you are changed. When you see clearly, you cannot unsee. I would not speak fully until you were ready to carry the responsibility of hearing. Not responsibility as burden, but as response. You are now in a place where you can respond instead of resist. You are quieter inside now. Not empty, but attentive. You have been humbled by things you could not fix. You have been slowed by things you could not control. That quietness is not weakness. It is readiness. It is the posture that allows truth to land gently instead of crashing loudly. Comment, thank you, Jesus, for guiding me if He's been your compass in the dark. I could not speak until now because earlier you might have argued with me. Now, you are listening. Earlier, you might have negotiated. Now, you are open. Earlier, you might have looked for loopholes. And now, you are looking for direction. You see the difference. That difference is everything. You were also surrounded by voices that would have drowned me out. Opinions, expectations, pressures from others, your own inner noise. Truth spoken into that environment would have been lost. I waited until those voices lost their power over you, until you became more concerned with what is true than with what is comfortable or approved. I did not rush because rushing would have robbed you of depth. What I am speaking to you now requires depth. It requires a heart that has been through enough to understand weight without fear. You have been through enough. I know there were times you felt frustrated with me. Times you wondered why I seemed slow. I held those feelings gently. I did not reject you for them. I understood them. Love does not demand blind patience. Love invites trust built through experience. And your experience has brought you here. Now when I speak, you are not hearing me as noise in the background of your life. You are hearing me as direction, as meaning, as truth that matters. That is why now is the time. My child, timing in the Spirit is mercy. It is wisdom. It is care. If I had spoken earlier, you might have heard words, but you would not have understood their heart. Understanding requires readiness, and readiness is grown, not given. Everything you walked through prepared you for this moment. The pressure sharpened your awareness. The confusion stripped away false certainty. The delay taught you endurance and humility. None of it was wasted. All of it served a purpose. And now when I speak, you are able to hear clearly because you are not demanding control. You are not rushing outcome. You are not asking me to fit into your plan. You are listening. That is why I could not speak until now. I am speaking now because now you can receive without fear. Now you can hold truth without twisting it. Now you can let it change you instead of fighting it. This is not because you became perfect. It is because you became honest. My child, let this settle in your heart. I did not delay because I was far. I waited because I was close. I was guarding you. I was shaping you. I was preparing a moment where truth would not be wasted, ignored, or misunderstood. Now is that moment. And now I am speaking. My child, they did not believe me before. I say this to you without anger and without bitterness, only with sorrow and understanding. Truth has always carried this weight. It often arrives quietly, long before the evidence is visible, long before people are ready to accept it. And because of that, it is often dismissed, doubted, or pushed aside. Not because it is false, but because it asks too much of the heart too soon. I have watched this happen again and again. Words spoken with love, meant to guide, meant to protect, meant to prepare, are ignored because they do not fit what people want to hear. Truth rarely announces itself with proof in hand. It speaks first to the heart, not the eyes. And hearts, when unready, often turn away. When they did not believe me, it was not because my words lacked authority. It was because belief requires humility, and humility is costly. To believe truth before evidence appears means trusting something beyond control. It means letting go of certainty. It means admitting that you do not see the whole picture yet. Many are not willing to do that. So they wait. They wait for signs. They wait for confirmation. They wait for evidence that forces belief rather than invites it. There is sorrow in that kind of waiting, not because belief is delayed, but because so much could have been spared if truth had been received earlier. Pain that could have been avoided. Paths that could have been corrected sooner. Hearts that could have been softened instead of hardened by disappointment. I feel that sorrow deeply, not as regret but as compassion. I know this sorrow resonates with you, my child. You know what it is like to speak from a place of honesty and not be believed. You know what it feels like to sense something before others do, to carry awareness that cannot yet be proven. You have lived moments where your words were questioned, your intentions misunderstood, your insight dismissed. You were told you were overthinking, imagining things, making too much of nothing. and you carried that quietly. I saw how that affected you, how it made you doubt yourself, how it made you hesitate to speak, how it taught you to keep parts of your knowing hidden because sharing it felt pointless. You learned that being ahead of understanding can feel lonelier than being behind it. You learned that truth without evidence can make you look foolish in the eyes of others, even when you are right. They did not believe me before, and they did not believe you either. And in that shared experience, there is a bond you may not have recognized until now. You are not strange for feeling this way. You are not broken for carrying insight that others could not yet see. You were simply early, and being early is often mistaken for being wrong. Truth is often judged by timing rather than substance. If it arrives too soon, it is dismissed. If it arrives too late, it is called obvious. Rarely is it honored for what it is in the moment it is spoken. That is why so many voices of truth are quieted before they are heard. Not because they lack clarity, but because they require patience to understand. I speak of this not to stir resentment in you, but to heal a wound. A wound formed when you felt unseen, unheard, or doubted. A wound that made you question whether your perception could be trusted. A wound that taught you to rely more on silence than on expression. I want you to know that I saw every moment of that. I saw how you swallowed words. I saw how you softened your voice. I saw how you learned to protect yourself by not speaking too soon. There is wisdom in restraint, but there is also pain when restraint is born from fear of rejection. I do not want you to live carrying that pain. I want you to understand that not being believed does not mean you were wrong. It often means others were not ready. When they did not believe me, I did not argue. I did not force them. I did not shame them. I waited. Truth does not need to defend itself. It reveals itself in time. Evidence eventually comes, not to vindicate truth, but to confirm what was already real. And when evidence appears, belief often follows, though it arrives late. You have felt it too. Moments when others finally saw what you had known all along. Moments when understanding arrived after the cost had already been paid. Moments when people said, "Now I see," and you quietly thought, "I always did." That quiet knowing did not make you proud. It made you tired. Because knowing early carries responsibility without recognition. I want you to know that I honor that. I honor the way you carried truth without applause. I honor the way you stayed gentle even when misunderstood. I honor the way you did not harden yourself into bitterness. You could have. Many do. But you did not. You chose patience even when it hurt. There is sorrow in being doubted, but there is also refinement. Being misunderstood stripped away your need for approval. It taught you to listen more deeply. It taught you to value truth for its own sake, not for how it is received. That refinement is rare, and it prepared you for this moment. When they did not believe me, it did not change the truth. It only delayed their recognition of it. When others did not believe you, it did not change who you are. It only delayed their understanding of you. Do not let delayed belief make you question reality. Truth does not become true when it is believed. It is true whether it is believed or not. I speak this gently because I know how easily sorrow can turn inward. How doubt can creep into your heart and whisper that maybe you were wrong, maybe you imagined things, maybe you should stop trusting what you sense. I want to remove that whisper. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a gift. It simply matured in a world that prefers proof over perception. Evidence eventually arrives because truth is patient. It does not rush to prove itself. It waits until hearts are ready or circumstances make denial impossible. That waiting can feel long and lonely, but it does not mean nothing is happening. It means alignment is forming. You are standing in a moment where evidence is beginning to appear, not just outwardly, but inwardly. Understanding is catching up to what you have known. Clarity is forming where there was once doubt. And as this happens, I want you to release the pain of not being believed. Do not carry it into what comes next. I am not asking you to forget those moments. I am asking you to see them clearly. They were not signs of failure. They were signs of timing. You were speaking to hearts that were not yet open. And now, you are listening with a heart that is there is a deep kindness in this moment. Kindness that heals old wounds. Kindness that says, you were not wrong to know. Kindness that says, you were not foolish to speak. Kindness that says, you were not unseen. I saw you. I heard you. And I was with you in every quiet moment when belief did not come. My child, let the sorrow soften you, not harden you. Let it deepen your compassion, not your doubt. You know what it is like to be unheard. Use that knowledge to listen more deeply now. You know what it is like to be doubted. Use that understanding to trust what is being revealed to you without fear. They did not believe me before, and they may not have believed you either. But belief is not the measure of truth. Time is. And time is now bringing things into the open. Rest in that. Let the weight lift. You are not alone in this story. You never were. My child, I want to speak to you about the evidence you could not see. Not because it was absent, not because it was weak, but because it did not look the way you were taught to expect. You were looking for proof that could be measured, counted, pointed to, explained. You were trained to believe that what is real must be loud, obvious, and visible. But the Spirit does not work that way. The deepest evidence is often the quietest, and the strongest confirmations often form where the eyes cannot reach. You thought there was no evidence because nothing dramatic happened. No sudden breakthrough. No clear sign that shouted the answer. But while you were watching the surface, something was shifting underneath. Evidence was forming not in spectacle, but in pattern. Not in noise, but in repetition. Not in one great moment, but in many small converging ones that you did not yet know how to read. I want you to remember how your inner world began to change. How things that once satisfied you slowly stopped working. How distractions that used to quiet you lost their power. How questions you once ignored began returning again and again. That was evidence. It was not punishment. It was confirmation. Confirmation that your heart was outgrowing old answers, that your spirit was becoming sensitive enough to feel what no longer fit. You felt confusion, but confusion was not the absence of truth. It was truth pressing against old structures. When something true approaches a life built on partial understanding, confusion often comes first. Confusion is what happens when old frameworks cannot contain new awareness. You thought confusion meant something was wrong. It meant something was changing. I gave you evidence through inner shifts. Subtle changes you could not explain. A growing discomfort with pretending. A deeper hunger for meaning. A weariness with shallow comfort. These were not moods. They were confirmations. Your spirit was responding to truth long before your mind could name it. Write amen. My heart trusts you if you still believe in His promises, and share this video.